The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Wednesday. And again, we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, well, you know, it's very interesting because, of course, you know, we're never stopping here. And our mother company, South Coast Media, is working hard and bringing you more TV programming and also putting together a news program, an actual either weekly or bi-weekly or something news program. So we'll see what happens. You know, things are coming out of the woodwork. And things are coming out of the woodwork at Government Center.
or from under rocks.
Yeah. Seems like the mayor had everything handed back to him. And he didn't get what he wanted last night. Oh, well.
Oh.
I feel bad. You know, it's very interesting that comments were made this past week that the mayor hasn't said anything that he needed to regret, and that the city was kind of quiet. And I said to a couple of people who made the comments, I said, he was on vacation all week. They said, oh, no wonder we didn't hear anything. So, but remember, the de facto part-time deputy mayor, Michael Hoare, made all the decisions.
Well, and that's illegal.
Yeah,
actually.
but I'm quite sure that we're going to hear, oh, well, you know, I did that, but, you know, the mayor told me I could do it. Okay, the mayor told you could do it. You know, so I'm not even going to get into it.
The mayor can't govern in absentia.
I agree.
I mean, that's the way the law is written. If the mayor's not available, if he's not readily available, if he's not somewhere where he can get back to the city, if he's on vacation somewhere, he's not going to leave his secluded cabin in Zimbabwe or wherever he was. The fact is that the way the city is supposed to run is the president of the city council is supposed to be the acting mayor.
Exactly.
But then again, what the hell? This is Fall River. When do we ever abide by anything? The only time we ever abide by a law or an ordinance or a statute is when it benefits the politicians. Otherwise, it's screw the people, screw the law, we don't care. And that's why every judge in Boston, every time Fall River goes up there, they hit themselves in the forehead with the gavel because they go, not again.
I think that the judges in Boston, the appellate courts and in the federal courts, have on standby a physician to write them prescriptions or to just give them an injection of morphine so it can take away the pain before they start the trial. It's terrible. We don't even have a legal department that can do their job half the time. Then again, it's supposed to be part-time, and it gets to be amazing because even for the most recent 30A complaint that was filed, the response from corporate counsel Joe Macy was, we replied to this back in February and our stance has not changed. What a lovely response. You know, it's obvious that it wasn't even presented to the city council before the reply came out, so that's neither here nor there. But
one size fits all. The ubiquitous response that really doesn't satisfy the law. But while we're talking about the city council meeting last night, let me send out a kudos to City Council Cliff Ponte. Apparently, he during the debates on these things and tourism and money, and he actually made the statement that we need to focus on job growth and job retention.
Oh my God!
Huh?
Oh my God!
Yeah. Let's forget about the myth. You know, what a perspective. What a perspective. You know, instead of the council focusing on what they've done for the last 20 years, which is BS, like let's rebrand, let's get tourism, let's do this, let's do all these things that have tried and failed. A perspective that's based on a fundamental. Let me explain this to the city council. This community will only thrive when people have jobs and small businesses. Small businesses are the foundation of every small and medium-sized city. That's a reality. Big companies don't basically control smaller cities. And if they do, when those bigger companies go out of business, the cities collapse, as we saw in the Midwest when major companies, tractor companies and things collapsed, and the steel industry that employed basically the entire town. Well, this is what happens. In order to have a solid community, small and medium-sized cities need small businesses. And small businesses need customers. So when if rather than worry about putting a new shade of lipstick on the pig, because no matter, we've put 75 different shades of lipstick, it's called rebranding and marketing, it's still a pig with a different shade of lipstick. Let's rebuild, but let's rebuild a foundation that will actually last. Build a house on a foundation that will last. And that means getting people to work, finding a way to get people to work, whether it's in this community, out of this community, but keep them in the community. That's the key. Apprenticeship programs. But the reality is, when you have jobs and small businesses, it has a synergistic effect. Synergistic, look it up, it's a good word. It basically means it has a greater effect than the sum of the parts. So 1 and 1 is 2, but when two things work in concert, they can have a synergy which creates an impact far greater than 1 and 1. And that's what happens in a community. When a community begins to put people to work, people begin to shop, people begin to spend money. It's not a difficult concept to understand, because let's face it, no jobs, no money, no business. That's a real simple thing to accept. No jobs, people don't have money, small businesses fail. And this is what the foundation of the city of Fall River. Years ago, and we said it many times on this show, CJ and I remember when Pleasant Street was a bustling, almost a second Main Street. Main Street was a bustling place.
Wally's Steakhouse. Ooh.
Well, yeah, Wally's Steakhouse, yeah. One of the icons of the Flint, yeah. But people, people had money. Yeah, granted, they weren't working at, they weren't working at super high-paying jobs, but they were getting a paycheck every week. And we had furniture stores, and we had men's shops, and we had five and dimes, and we had a whole bunch of things, and we had foot traffic, and we had people who had money, people that went out to eat. It was almost a pilgrimage for working people to go out on Friday night, do their shopping, and go grab a bite to eat somewhere. So there were restaurants, and on Sunday they went out to church and went to breakfast. But why not now? Well, because people don't have any money. And it's nice to see at least one councilor try to get this city, slap it upside the head, and put it back into reality. Because all this crap, this yuppie crap, the yuppie monthly that the redevelopment authority, what we need is a bookstore and a coffee shop. Well, we've had bookstores, used bookstores that couldn't even survive in Fall River. We've got coffee shops, a ton of coffee shops, by the way. That's baloney. What we need is to put people back to work, to find a way to get people back to work. We've discussed it ad nauseum on this show, but there doesn't seem to be any ability of our council to put that together, some of whom can still remember when Fall River had a vibrant Pleasant Street and a downtown. And they use all kinds of reasons for why it's not there anymore. The reason is pretty simple. People worked in Fall River, and now they don't work, and the people who do work move the hell out of the city. So it's nice to see that somebody is trying to get people's perspective back to something in reality. All we got to do is look down the road to New Bedford. Now, realistically, New Bedford has a far better hook for tourism than we do. Yeah, we got Lizzie Borden. Our claim to fame is somebody who axe murdered her parents, which, everybody thinks that's cool. But as CJ said, the city's so bad they had to do the Lizzie Borden movie in Canada. But New Bedford's got the Whaling Museum. Moby Dick, a book that's read in every college. A book that's read in most high schools. In probably junior or senior English. I don't know. Maybe they don't read anymore. They have Kindles. They don't even use books. But I don't know. But the fact is that people who get educated should know how to read. And Moby Dick is one of the classics. It is a classic. And, there's been movies made about it. But even New Bedford is smart enough to realize that that's only a very small hook. They don't have anything else really there. They can bring a few people in, and they can go around the shops. It's like Fall River. Look, let's ditch the tourism gap. Let the individual businesses try to push the tourism. It's never going to be an industry in this city. You got Newport, Rhode Island. You got Cape Cod. You got the Rocky Coast of Maine. These places have drawing power. They've got things. They are vacation resorts. And by the way, I'm going to close so CJ can weigh in. By the way, tourism, i.e., tourism business, does not a great city make. All I have to do is point you to Miami, Florida. A paradise, in the words of the Herald News, and an absolute shithole to live in. So, Rio de Janeiro, a paradise, and 3 Olympic swimmers got held up at gunpoint a day and a half ago, and some other coaches were held up at knife point. Even the police don't go to the ghettos. So, tourism does not create a great and vibrant city. It may make some people rich, but it doesn't improve the life of the people who live in that community. So please, take your happy pills and your delusionary pills and throw them in the barrel and start looking at reality. Because the things you're looking at to fix this city have never fixed it and will never fix it.
And the biggest problem I have with this rebranding thing, let's just look at it for what it is. Warmer and cooler. Dumb and dumber. And now we're going from dumber to dumbest. You can't rebrand Fall River. There are communities across this country which don't rebrand. Yet they're doing well. They're doing very well. They have jobs. They have industry, they have educational systems, all of which seem to be going unfettered, without a problem. And they have drug problems, and they have crime. But they're doing more than surviving. They're not borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. They're not stealing from the employees to pay a bill. They're doing exactly what they need to do. They're not spending $10,000, $20,000, or $30,000 on an individual to rebrand Fall River. And by the way, the city does have an RFP out for this. But we can't know who is going to get these contracts. We can't know until the contracts have been signed. This is supposed to be public information? Now, I know the Herald News has already said they're going to go after this. They're probably going to use the same law we use, which is 6610. But the lawyer for the city, Attorney Macy, always says, that's pending. No, it's not pending. We want to know who's applying. We found out on the hiring of Adriano Ponciano, and the city still hasn't provided the unredacted applications. They have it redacted and then they wrote it in by hand. And I don't care what Joe Macy says in regards to, well, it's all in the eyes of the beholder. Well, you know what? I'm the beholder. I want to know what's in it. and I represent the people in respect to having the knowledge they need to know, was this decision made properly? Because guess what? I got a copy of a resume. Chip, you saw the same resume.
Yep.
I'm not going to get into the names of who was on it. I'm not going to get into the information that was contained in it. But let me tell you something. That resume blew me away when I compared it to the resume of Adriano Paciano. I mean, obviously, these were two totally different people. One who had plenty of experience doing this, who, by the way, was willing to accept the position for the same amount of money Paciano got it for. And Paciano has no experience doing this.
Yeah, but he knows somebody.
That's right. This was another political kiss ass. Okay? And when you look at the appointments that the mayor made to the various boards, and we spoke about this in the previous show, again, to get a job in Fall River, learn to plant your lips directly on the derriere of the mayor, and guess what? You have a job. And that is what Fall River needs to rebrand. That's where we need to stop.
Yeah.
We need to stop this whole situation where we're not going to get the best and the brightest. Because I'm going to call you out, Mr. Mayor. You promised in your campaign to hire the best and the brightest. So far, you've hired the worst and the idiot. And that is unacceptable.
Well, you're right. Well, number one, let me say this. Rebranding is only like pulling the label off and putting a new label on. It's, if the fundamental product hasn't changed, that's why rebranding doesn't work. And as you said, CJ, as far as I'm concerned, we don't need to rebrand. What we need to do is reevaluate our priorities, because for some unknown reason, our city council has not figured out that when we look around and we see states that are thriving, their economy is thriving, their communities, their cities for the most part are thriving. What do they all have in common? Low taxes or no taxes. Why? Because it allows people to have money, and people with money tend to spend it. They don't stuff it in a sock and leave it. They actually begin to enjoy their life, more so than rich people. Now, rich people enjoy their lives, but they can only go out and have one dinner. They're one person. When somebody who works hard all week gets enough money to take his family out for dinner, or take his family out for a day, they do, because it's a welcome diversion from their everyday life. And people tend to spend money, and it's been proven that, they talked about it. But what does our city council and our mayor do? Spend more money. Look at their priorities. They split the DCM, they created a new position, got an unqualified person, they've given all kinds of people jobs. We've got, again, it's just like the school department. We've got, deans of students over there. Now we got chiefs of staff, we got assistants, special assistants. We changed the names, we changed the salaries, and they're all kinds. We just layer upon layer of bureaucratic, unnecessary jobs. Not a lean government, not a service-oriented government to provide service to the people. We don't hire Indians. We only hire chiefs. And then, to add insult to injury, now the Public Safety Committee wants to call on the police and fire departments to talk about how we can increase their manning. Well, the SAFER grant's gone. How are we going to do it? Well, you think maybe you should have not created all these positions and given out all these pay raises before you had that meeting? Because I'm going to tell you what you're going to come up with. Override 2.5. That's going to be your answer. We need the money. We have to have police and fire. Well, did we have to have a press secretary or whatever the euphemistic name you use for a mayor in a city of this size? Does the mayor need a chief of staff? Let me remind everybody, the chief of staff is like a sanitary engineer. A sanitary engineer is a janitor, And the chief of staff's position started as a secretary, the mayor's secretary. And then the mayor decided to give that secretary a very large pay raise for reasons we all know. So they changed the name to a very important sounding chief of staff. And they'll talk about how important these positions are. And I always counter with the argument that 25 years ago, we had a 300-man fire department, a 300-man police department. We got a 175-man fire department now. We have less employees, less people in the schools, and we're spending 10 times the amount of money, and we have far more administrators and far more. How could the mayor of the city of Fall River run a city that had double or more than double the amount of city employees without a chief of staff and without a press secretary and without all these people? You know why? He actually showed up for work.
Ooh.
And he did, and he wasn't like the Queen of England, who was purely ceremonial. Because that's what happened. We got a city administrator to run the city. We got all these people to help him do what? Go to political functions and remember people's names so he can shake their hand and get a vote? This city can't afford that kind of structure. Maybe the mayor of New York City, which is basically a state, can have deputy mayors and all kinds of help. Maybe, he does need all kinds of help. I mean, the police department in New York City, I think it's over 35,000 people. That's bigger than some cities. Yeah, you need some help in a city like that. Do we really need help here? When we got department heads that run every department,
with 4 assistants.
with all kinds of assistants, that's right. And so what does the mayor really, the mayor's got all kinds of things to do, really? Not really. The fact is we had more people, more students in the school system, we had more of everything, and a lot more people providing services to the people of Fall River, and we had a lot less of the bureaucratic jobs. And, if they mention 2.5 override, I'll be the first one out there campaigning against it, because you know something? You put the cart before the horse. Public Safety Committee, shame on you. Every one of you that's on that committee.
And it's chaired by Pam LeBeau.
And if the word 2.5 override comes out of your mouth, every single day, and every single person I see, I'm going to remind them of every new position, every pay raise you voted in before you decided to worry about police and fire. Okay? That's the problem in Fall River. Everything for the people, for the taxpayers, is an afterthought, after they take care of all their friends and themselves.
Well, how's that? That was an explosive situation.
That's right.
Well, today the Mass Democratic vote to oppose the charter school question. That's question number 2. And, Senator Mike Rodrigues is a major supporter of favoring the availability of charter schools. The question proposed will increase charter schools to 12 a year as opposed to the cap imposed by the state currently. Now, the kicker on that is this. This gives the people the right to say whether or not it happens. And whether you're for or against charter schools, and this is a very personal issue, and we know this. But now, for the explosive, this is an explosive announcement, guess what's going to be coming in October? Oh, no, look at that!
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Nice logo.
Spindle City Straight Talk has been reached out to by both sides of this issue. I don't know how good or bad that is, but I'll tell you right now, it's definitely different. So we are going to put together a statewide, can I say that again? Statewide broadcast of the People's Debate. And we're going to bring it to you live from Fall River. It will be broadcast live on YouTube. It will be broadcast live on Facebook. We will have pull feeds to all the media outlets, because this is a statewide issue. I've already been in touch on setting this up. I'm trying to set it up locally with our local media companies and media outlets, but we will have an actual debate on this. Currently, we're in the process of putting together, receiving some questions from the people across the state, and we are putting together the forum for this. We've reached out to the Academy, that's the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, for a possible host or MC for this event. And this is going to be big. So I want to be sure that everyone is on board with that.
Yeah, and it's an extremely important question, obviously. You know, education is the cornerstone of success for our children and also for this society. We need to maintain, and we have not in this country. The educational system in this country is in difficult straits. And I think this question, and both sides, I think, need to really come forward with why they feel their position is correct. I will say personally, I'm looking forward to this debate because I want to hear both sides. I know one thing. There's nothing more valuable to me than a good teacher. Someone who molds minds, someone who engages children to become intellectuals and to be, to thirst for knowledge, because, your physical skills may diminish as you get older, but your brain, for the most part, lasts a lot longer. And, it's, your ability and to articulate and to speak and to deal with people, it's extremely important. So, there's nothing more important than this issue. But I see a lot more being spent on education and a lot fewer teachers in the classroom. That's what disturbs me. And I've said numerous times, and it's not a position for or against charter schools, but I've said many times we are over-administered. We have far too many administrative, that ed reform needs to be reformed again because we don't have enough teachers in the classroom. And they will debate many issues about this, but hopefully what comes out of this, regardless of what side wins, is that the people will demand that whatever happens with this issue, that we look at education very closely, because it's not, we are not doing well. We rank, what were we, 40 some, I don't know, in the 40s or the high 30s, and
we're doing very poor.
Math, and so we have third world countries ranked ahead of us in science and mathematics. Yet
and European countries say, send your kids over to America for exchange programs. It's a punishment.
Yeah,
but I have today I posted a quote on Facebook, and it's very clearly, it's a quote from Malcolm Forbes. He's a publisher. And the purpose of education is to replace an empty mind with an open one. And that's what this is about. This is about replacing the ignorance that we have, and to replace your empty mind, because you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the information on this particular question. And there are many questions you don't have the information on. And this is what Spindle City Straight Talk is about. To educate you and to make sure you know what's going on in your community. So
stay angry.
Always stay angry. Have a great day, and we'll see you on Friday.